Welcome to the Taking the Lead Media Podcast, broadcasting from the lovely island of Oahu with your weekly playlist of independent music and interviews, except for last week, my bad. My name is Onofre, and welcome to episode 123. Thank you for tuning in and checking out today's episode. I have a wonderful show for you today. Melanie of Melotov Records joins me on the show for a chat. A little bit about Melotov Records. It's an independent record label based in Los Angeles, California, first established in 2008. Lots of hardcore punk and metal type bands on this roster, and it can go sludgy too. The label has released records by some choice bands. Some include Tiger Flowers, Bone Dance, The Banner, Outer Heaven, Tidemouth, Calculator, Holy Tongues, Nomads, Vices, and Old Wounds. Trust me, there's more. Go check out the catalog on Bandcamp. Vinyl is available through Deathwish Inc. At the end of 2016, Melotov went on hiatus until further notice, and we touch base on that for a little bit on the chat, and we talk about a bunch of other stuff too. We get into formats, a lot of the bands and people Melanie has worked with, and her interning at Metal Blade. And for some reason, everyone I've talked to on the show that's from California, I always ask about the Chain Reaction, and I apologize. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with that place. The parking there was just so accessible. Shout out to the parking situation down there, for real. Toward the end of the interview, I asked about house shows too, security, and I guess show etiquette. I think I was just interested in learning about how the scene is up there in that part of California and how shows are. It's kind of the same here, more or less. But this was an awesome talk. Very fun for sure. It took place over the phone while Melanie was in the car, but she said she was on Bluetooth, so it's all good. She also picked out today's playlist. Thank you for that. You'll hear tunes by Antichrist, Demoncore, Deadhead, Globe and Beast, Seizures, and Tidemouth. Check out the show notes on this podcast for timestamps. All right, so we hit the ground running on this one. My chat with Melanie of Melotov Records here on the Taking the Lead Media Podcast. And again,
the heads up.
Yeah, again, thank you for taking time to do this. Appreciate it, really. And thanks for getting back to me, really. It's really awesome.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Yeah, no, my pleasure. I'm flattered that you asked and wanted to interview, especially because, I was pretty inactive, label-wise over the last year, but
yeah.
No, I'm very flattered, and this is awesome, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, oh, and also, happy 10 years of the label. I know it's been
Thank you.
Off for a year, but yeah, 10 years is a milestone.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot. Seriously, thanks.
Let's see. Any plans? I know you took a year off, to restart the label or get it going again.
Well, yeah, the past 2017 and 2016 were kind of tumultuous. With personal stuff, and then with the label, 2016, I've had back issues for years, from a lot of car accidents, unfortunately. And it got really bad, 2014, 2015. So in 2015, I was working, while running the label and working full time, I was going to physical therapy and trying to, getting epidural. I would get an epidural every 2 months because of nerve pain and all these conservative measures, which is what I preferred. And then, it was just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, wasn't fixing it. So I decided to do surgery, which went great. And that was at the top of 2016. Wow. So that was right where had surgery in January of 2016. The Nomads LP was finishing up in production. And then I was working with Outer Heaven, Gate Creeper, Homewrecker, and Scorched for that split. And so it was just 2016, healing from back surgery, which, because I have an implant now, in my like L5S1 vertebrae area.
Yeah.
It's your lower back. It takes about an entire year to heal because you have to have bone grow around it. So like 6 months into recovery from surgery, I was driving to a doctor's appointment and I got in another car accident, and it was a pretty bad one. The car was totaled. I had to go to the hospital, and everything was okay with the surgery site. Like nothing got knocked out of place, but it awakened a whole new set of back issues. And like I'm pretty outspoken on social media. Like I overshare everything, whatever. But I had to keep that one quiet because of there was a lawsuit because
okay. Wow.
the other driver, and like it was their fault, and I was pursuing that, but I couldn't really talk about it. So anyway, so like that all happened, like surgery, which went great, hooray, got engaged, top of January, recovery, car accident, label stuff. So it's like it just became too much. And then I finished up records. There was projects that I had to drop, stuff that was like taking too long and backed up. And I was trying to find a solution to like, okay, like, we can release a tape while we're waiting still, or why don't we shoot a music video, or, why don't we create some merch for the band? Like everything but the vinyl. And it was just like, so I had to drop some people. I'm kind of rambling now. It's like a huge, stupid history. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
Long and short of it was because like I was still working full time as a property manager, and then recovering like from an accident on top of major back surgery, and and now this lawsuit that I had to like focus on. So it was just like it was too much,
Yeah.
And so I just wrapped up 2016, said going on hiatus because it's like Melotov is my baby. Like that's what I left high school doing. Like I graduated high school and I was like, I'm not going to college. I'm not doing this. I'm starting a label. This is what I want to do. So it's like it's too hard to lay it down for good. But I had to put it, pump the brakes a bit and like heal.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't in a good headspace, anyway. And to not be in a good headspace when you're trying to like get over shit and run a business and work full time and like plan a wedding and like all that. So it's just like, something's got to give. It was Melotov, put things on hold. So in a very roundabout way of answering your question is, I would like to revamp the label, or kind of like restructure it to where it's more of a management situation than it is a label that produces records. So like, the whole reason I wanted to start a label is because there were bands that I saw and loved, and I was like, these people need to be, heard about. And I did a lot of like guerrilla marketing back in like high school, just basic shit, like hand out show flyers for a band that I like for a show that they had coming up, sort of thing. And the development of an artist, finding a band, developing them, and then getting them, out in the right channels, whether that's distribution or production or tour or whatever, like that's more of what I wanted to do. But because I just went into it blindly, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'll have to put out music too. So that's how that got started. But like I wanted to stay connected in the music scene.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind revamping it in that way, but I don't have any set dates right now. I'm still just trying to stay involved as much as I can. So
that's good.
Yeah. Sorry, that was such a long answer.
No, that's really informative. It was a cool story. Yeah, to know all that history behind it. I think I read I don't know if it was a Facebook post, maybe a tweet, on social media. Did you do an internship at Metal Blade?
I did. That's funny that you bring that up. Yeah.
That's was that right after high school? How'd you get into that? Without going to college.
It was honestly the most like naive, like the most, dumbest kid from my standpoint. Like it was the dumbest thing I could have like approached them, the dumbest way to approach them, because I messaged, this is so embarrassing, but I messaged the Metal Blade Records MySpace page from my personal MySpace. I didn't think to like go to the website and like get contact numbers. I didn't think to like call and talk to receptionists. I was just like, oh, MySpace. Everyone uses MySpace. I literally sent the account, the Metal Blade Records MySpace account, a MySpace message, and I was like, hey, I'm semi-local. I have transportation. I would love to intern. I obviously do it for free. I'm not getting school credits, but it's something I'm interested in. And they responded on MySpace. So shout out to MySpace. Yeah. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
That was cool. And that was in high school. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought it up because I was just talking to Sarah about it. We're like laughing because in LA you have to know several different ways to get around.
Yeah.
Because of the huge traffic problem. So like we were talking about directions to a certain place and how we all used to do it with MapQuest, before Waze.
Oh, right.
And everything. And so like my first day at Metal Blade, like I live in Santa Clarita, which is like 30 minutes north of LA. It's considered northern LA. And Metal Blade Records at the time was based in Simi Valley, which is like 45 minutes north of LA, like north west.
Oh, okay.
So, there's a little bit of a distance, but I MapQuest how to drive there. And I missed like the on-ramp to the 405 freeway, which is where I had to take to, whatever.
Oh, wow.
And like, because MapQuest, you print it out and it's done. Like, I was like, I didn't know how to redirect myself. So I called Metal Blade and I was like, hey, like it's my first day interning, but, I just found out like a friend died and I'm sorry I can't come in. Cause I was like, I totally pulled a dead friend card. I didn't name anyone, but like, I was so, frustrated and nervous because it was the first day and I missed it and I was going to be late that I was like crying, but I didn't want them to hear that I was like crying because I was frustrated or whatever. So I just made it up on it. I'm crying because I know someone died, but I'll see you tomorrow, sort of thing. And so, so that's fun stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. But, interning there made me want to start my own label. So,
Wow. What's
Metal Blade's tight.
What's the headquarters there like? I just think like just like death metal lining the walls and skull and crossbones.
Yeah. Man, it was sick. Like literally, you go up, you get off the freeway in Simi Valley, and it's all suburban, it's all residential, very nice place. And it's not like I was driving forever, but you get to like this industrial complex, and it's exactly it. They have the logo up with the skull and crossbones, like right, out front of their suite of the building in the complex, and then like right next door is like, I don't know, it was like a fabric manufacturer or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was tight. Like, they were super sweet to me. Everyone was super receptive. The woman that hooked it up for me, like the internship and who I was corresponding with, her name is Michelle. I don't think she's with Metal Blade anymore, but she was badass. She literally like showed me around on my first day, like when I actually got there on the first day. And introduced me to everyone. She took me into like this little walk-in storage closet, which is full of just marketing materials for bands on their roster. She loaded me up with a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of those digipack promo CDs that you would send, to like stores to play overhead, whatever, stuff like that. So she gave me a bunch of that stuff. And, because I told her, I was like, I'm interested in doing A&R eventually for a label, like the artist and relations, the people that finds the new talent and everything. So she was the person to talk to, and I worked under her. And I made press kits, put together press kits for As I Lay Dying, who was still, it was before the front man like wanted to kill his wife. Like it was when they were still all good. So it was made press kits and everything, and I was like, this is tight, but I could do all this and like run it myself. Like how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, 33.
33. Okay, so like that invincibility you feel like when you're 18 or 19. You're like, fuck, I could do this. I know the world. I know myself. Like it was that blind like ignorance or that blind naivety. Like, this is tight, but I can run it myself. So that's the origin story of Melotov. And I graduated in June 2008 and started the label like that weekend because there was a local band that I was working with, and they had a CD release show. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's
that.
Oh yeah, that's really sweet. That's a cool story. like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see. I gotta tell you, there's no bad record on your label. Everything you've released is amazing, and I enjoy a lot.
Thank you.
Like some of my favorites, I gotta tell you, I really like that the Bleeding Kansas Cathedral split.
Nice. Thank you. That's one of my personal favorites too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like, and it's such like a nice balance. Like if you like whatever side you start on, it'll kind of like equalize when you turn it over. Like if you start off with like cathedrals and then you got the softer stuff. Well, not entirely softer, but you know, it's not as, I guess, aggressive. And
right.
Dance for Destruction. That's that. I love that stuff too.
You're going deep. This is great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think the first thing I purchased, or the first record I bought from you, I think was Calculators. 7-inch, and I think Tidemouth, and you gave me a test press too, like with my order, a test press of that 7-inch. Of
I think I was just. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. Of Tidemouth.
Yeah, like it was. I didn't know what it was. I was like, she gave me 2 copies of the same record, and then I didn't know what test presses really were, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I guess that might have been a bonus. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. No, that was kind of like, but when I was doing mail order myself before like linking up with Death Wish, I would just like throw random shit in, and like your name I recognized because you would order quite often, and thank you for that.
Oh yeah.
But if that was the first record, if that was the first thing you ordered, then it would have been the first time I was. So I don't know. I was probably just like, hey,
Yeah, like
you got a
that random
record. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't even tell you why, but why the hell not? Like, here's the press. Tidemouth is they're all of my friends, really, really close friends, and I love them dearly. Mike, who is the front man, is my fiance. So it was like, but when there used to be like extremely screamo, obscure, like the Locust, but even more like rhythmically stupid, and just like Insanity. And then that 7-inch was when they kind of like, they wrote it, and it had structure, and they matured. So it's like, they're my friends, and that could be seen as a biased move. But when they were playing me the unmixed stuff, I was like, this is great. Like, let me put it out.
It is good. Yeah.
I'm glad that you like that. Yeah. Thank you.
And then their Velvet and Stone LP was, I want to say, almost significantly different, like in terms of sound.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the cover art is really dope. I really like the art on that, and it kind of glows in the dark too, right? If you look at it.
It's got the way that the jacket was printed.
Yeah.
There's it's matte, but then there's a gloss on top of it, and then when you move it certain ways in the light, like then the skeleton face, the skull pops up on the bust of that angel, I guess I don't even know what you call it. Mother Teresa?
Yeah, I didn't know. Some kind of statue on there.
I don't know the exact term.
Yeah. Oh, okay. shout to that Fisher 7-inch too is
Oh,
one of my favorites too.
love that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I love all of them. I mean, I feel like a mother, you know,
They're
to
all
the releases. But
all tight releases.
that's rad. Thank you.
I gotta ask, do you know which record sold the most on your label?
That's a good question because it's like, you mean like physical copies?
Yeah, like the I guess highest selling record on your label.
That
Physical copies, yeah.
would probably that's a great question. My knee-jerk reaction is to say the Antichrist Demoncore, the ACXDC LP
The self-titled
that we released,
one?
self-titled one.
Yeah.
Because Sergio, frontman, has he's worked hard for years to make a name for ACXDC, and as well as everyone else, every member of the band. There's been some lineup changes and everything, but Sergio ran that band like a business. He ran it tight, and built up the following that he did. And he and I are friends, so I was so humbled because he reached out to me, and he was like, "Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Absolutely, 100%." And so a lot of copies that went into second pressing super quick and got distributed wildly. That definitely got the most press attention at that time. But another one that sold quick and practically immediately that is close to second pressing is Seizures, Sanity, Universal.
Oh wow!
And
Yes.
it was a double LP, so that kind of blew me away. But I think overall it would be Antichrist Demoncore. The repress of the banner, Each Breath Haunted, it was a picture disc LP.
Oh, okay.
That sold out overnight, but that was because we only pressed 333 copies, and the idea was we would do another remaster of another record, and then that would be another 333, and then you get 666 and everything. So it's it depends on how much you pressed and what was going on, but I'd say overall that Antichrist Demoncore LP, that one definitely is the best seller.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. I went to Japan in 2014, and on Gram I posted, I tagged you that there was a copy of the is it Beau Navier?
Yeah.
They had a copy of that in a record store in Japan. I was like,
that's so sick.
I was like,
that's dope.
I wanted to pick it up, but I'm like, oh, I think someone else who lives here might want this. I was like, all right,
so sweet
I better leave it. But
you're such a good guy. What a good guy move. I would have been like, oh hell yeah, this is a rare find.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, I already got a copy. Someone else needs one. I was like, all right. But that's cool that it reached to that side of the world in the used bin. All right.
Damn. So that would have meant that it's been around for a while. There was a before, again, when I was doing mail order myself, before I linked up with Death Wish, because Death Wish reaches internationally. I wouldn't be. It's always still flattering to me, and it's still a welcome surprise. When people from other countries have Melotov gear, but it's like, oh yeah, but that was because Death Wish helped them. But prior to that distribution deal with them, there was a blog site. It might still be around, but it was called Blue September, and they ran the distro for Japan and a few other smaller countries, and so I would send stuff overseas to this distribution, Blue September, in Japan. So that's probably how Beau Navier ended up in there. But that's dope because that's that was easily 2011. In the infancy of Melotov. So that's dope, and that's even sicker that you decided to let a local happen upon it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I don't know how
the label.
Yeah, I don't know if how it works there though. If oh, can I listen to this record before I buy it? It's they have listening stations there. But I can tell you in Japan that the physical format, even CDs, is still in. They even had a Tower Records that was still operational.
What?
Yeah, there's a Tower Records. There might be two, but I know that the one I went there's one, yeah, and it's still operational. Like there's like 4 floors, Tower Records.
That's rad.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's sick.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go to Japan. I've been dying to go.
Do it.
Try to convince Mike like on a honeymoon trip like to Japan. But that's sick. I'll have to check that out when I do make it there eventually.
And there's so many record stores there, like, and for cheap, like, or reasonable price. I think the exchange rate is like, I don't know, $1 to, I think it's 100 yen or 1 yen.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's almost exact 1 to 1. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
Damn, Tower Records. There's Sherman Oaks, like part of the Sherman Oaks Mall. I think it was part of the Sherman Oaks Mall, but I would go there all the time.
Right.
And that is I used to be blonde in high school, and that is the only time that someone mistook me for Britney Spears. I always get Drew Barrymore, and I don't see it. Like Drew Barrymore's cool, but anyway, Tower Records. So I was like, oh my god, I thought you were Britney Spears, and that's my dumb little story, little anecdote about Tower Records.
Oh, yeah, good times. Did you hear Best Buy is gonna start or stop selling CDs? And like,
I did not hear that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in June or July. Like they're gonna discontinue the CD. So, yep.
What?
Only Amazon. Okay, straight to Amazon or your local record shop.
I mean, that is crazy.
Yeah.
But I get they for years have been scaling back their CD section. Slowly but surely. So I guess that's. I was gonna say, oh, that's sad. It's a sign of the times, but in a weird way, I think it'll be good because the people that still like tangible, physical things are the same people that keep record stores alive. They're not always in there buying the tangible stuff or buying the records, but like now it'll get people. If Best Buy doesn't have CDs anymore, hopefully that increases foot traffic to the local record stores.
True.
So that's gnarly. Where did you hear that? When did that come out?
I saw at first it was one of those trending tweets, and then I saw a couple articles like at the local paper mentioning that Best Buy is going to stop. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then I think it was overshadowed by the Olympics now, so that's probably why you didn't see it anywhere. Oh, figure skating and snowboarding now.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people that still want it, they're still in need, but
how do you feel about the CD format? Are you still down with that, or
I have not listened to an actual CD in a good couple of years, honestly. I mean, I have a laptop that doesn't even have like a disc,
right.
slot,
Okay.
You know what I mean? And the car that how I'm able to talk to you right now, like it's Bluetooth, so my phone, and you do this, and you click your heel 3 times, and there's music. And, but when I'm at home or stationary, if I can, like I'll listen to vinyl.
Yeah.
That's how I prefer it. Otherwise, it's Spotify or. I used to be heavy into like my own iTunes because I loaded everything on there from my CDs, but I like the the availability of that Spotify has. So
do you have you so you're a Spotify user?
Premium, thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because at first it was either iTunes or Apple Music or Spotify for me, but then I've always heard or seen posts like the horror stories about like royalty checks going to bands from Spotify, and I'm like, what, 2 cents, 3? Really? That's not right. And so I'm like, all right, well, maybe Apple will do better because Taylor Swift said something. And
stood up for herself, right?
Yeah. So now I'm an Apple user, but do you see like an actual difference between the two providers? Is Spotify like more superior in a sense for the consumer?
You know what? That's another great question. The digital distribution, archival distribution. Shout out to Sean. What's up, Sean? He sends me this great monthly report which breaks down the band, like which band, what they're getting paid for, what song it is, and what platform and then like, and it's a huge Excel sheet, and then at the top it tells you like your net earnings from that billing period or report period or whatever. In my opinion, that's hard to say. I think Spotify is more user friendly.
Oh, okay.
In terms of like user friendly, it's easy to find bands. It's an easy site or app to navigate. You can share it easily, socially. So, if I wanted to send something to one of my friends, like, oh my God, you got to hear this, like I can send it through. It's incorporated with all social media.
Yeah.
So I use Spotify most often. Apple Music, I have a subscription to, but I hardly ever listen to, use that.
Yeah.
And I think for me anyway, it's because it was newer and I was already used to Spotify, and, I'm old, and why would I want to learn a new technology? But, but in terms of like which pays better for the band, they're neck and neck.
Yeah.
It's not something that people are getting rich off of, like, because people want instant stuff, and so if you deliver it on any format, then you can't go wrong. So, does that answer your question? I feel like I kind of like went in the direction with that, but
I like that answer. Yeah. I feel like they are pretty much the same. But what I noticed with Spotify, like, it seems it's very popular with like playlists. Like, so I'd always see like a label. Oh, we got a playlist, a sampler of all our bands, but I never see like a Apple playlist. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they don't really like Apple or playlists and stuff. So.
Hey man, that's to each his own.
Yeah.
So, but like, there's also these other underground platforms that that I would never think to use as my choice of like streaming, but like Amazon MP3, I never think to go to Amazon and download stuff, but like with the digital distribution that I have, it hits all those outlets. So it's like, they're relatively all the same pricing scale across the board. And that's mainly for the way that it's structured, like mainly for bigger labels or bigger bands. But I mean, I know what you're talking about in terms of like how it's problematic for bands and they got to check for 3 cents sort of thing. Like, I think Tom York posted something about it or said something about it a while ago, and I don't know, it's been hard. Like, the industry has had to adapt. People got so fed up with MP3s and everything being so minuscule and impersonal that vinyl came back. But then it was like, well, vinyl isn't portable. How do we compensate? So it's like, it's still trying to figure itself out and correct itself. And, I just think it's good to have everything out there on as many platforms as possible, because I think Spotify is user friendly, but not everyone can afford a subscription, a monthly subscription. So they listen on this platform, or they just go to the Bandcamp page and listen.
Yeah.
So it's.
But the thing with Bandcamp, like, I think after like 3 lessons, and they're like, "Would you like to donate now?" It's like, no, not yet.
Do they do that? Yeah, like 3 lessons.
It's
like 3 listens on a punk band. It's like, each song is 12 seconds long. You're like, I didn't even get a full minute, and you're asking me to pay. Like, hold on.
Yeah, I've heard that the artist, or I think the artist has the option to take that off, but I think it's also maybe default, maybe. But like, after you stream like an album, maybe several times, and it'll flag you and saying, oh, it's time to decide if you want to donate or not, or purchase the album. I'm like, all right, let me check if this is on Apple Music, and it won't flag me there. But then I'll end up donating if anything, like, if it's not available on that platform for sure, or if they got a physical format. But have you noticed, like, for me, like, as a consumer, with vinyl, like, it's getting not pricier, but like, I'm running out of room to stock all my records. And I can't leave them on the shelf, because then eventually the shelf is gonna fall off because it's so heavy. I'm like, all right, so what can I get next? I mean, I'm down with digital, but I do like that physical copy in my hand. So like tapes are
Yeah.
are I think I feel like it's making a comeback as well, like in a bigger way, just because it's smaller and cheaper, and you got that, of course, that digital code download if whoever's selling it does provide
Right.
one. But I feel like I'm leaning towards that now as opposed to vinyl. Plus, and I think it's faster to produce, right, than getting a record.
It's much faster. It's the quickest turnaround of any format. It's the least expensive method of producing something on a physical format. And you still get the benefits. You still get like the download card. You can customize the shell colors for the actual tape. So you can still do like, with vinyl, you would do like limited 400 on gold, but only 100 on clear. You know what I mean? So you could still do that limited, colorways with the shells and still have that collector's drive with cassettes and there's still artwork too.
Yeah.
So it's like everything that people loved about vinyl and CDs, it gets translated onto a physical format that is really, really easy to churn out and cost effective pretty much. Putting on a 7-inch is cheap for the consumer, but you're pretty much, as a label, or as a band, if you're self-releasing it, 7 inches are expensive and the profit margin is super thin. And in fact, like there's 7 inches that I've done where it's like, okay, I know that this probably won't recoup right away. And to sell it at what I want to sell it, people wouldn't buy it, So sometimes you kind of have to look at like releasing a 7-inch as an investment in marketing. Like, here's my marketing budget. Instead of putting up a billboard or running an ad online or in a publication for a few weeks, I'm going to use that money for a 7-inch because the profit margin is super thin. At least the way that I was doing it may be different for someone else. But with tapes, that's something that you could just churn out super quick. If you mark it up 100%, it's still within a price range that people are willing to pay. In fact, last night I went to a show. I saw Mammoth Grinder play, and there's this band called Command with a K, and it was their first show. They absolutely blew me away, and it was the first time that I've bought a tape at a show. Because I just wanted, I bought a tape of theirs and a shirt because I wanted to support. And I don't have a cassette player. I personally, it's not the format that I choose to listen to music on. Yeah.
I know you released that one. What was it? The Banner.
Yeah.
What was it? Born to Ruin. That was one cassette you released, right?
Correct. Born to Ruin. It was supposed to be a set of 3, and the Banner in between that got signed to Good Fight Entertainment, which that's what Old Wounds was on, and a bunch of other bands. Rick Barnhart of Good Fight Entertainment. He's a friend of mine. He was just out here for the 18 Visions Martyr AD 3-day weekend tour and everything. So no bad blood there, but they signed to Good Fight, and Good Fight's a larger label than Melotov. So it's like the focus for the Banner at that point was the LP Graying that they released, which is fucking fantastic. I released a 7-inch split with Old Wounds and Trenchfoot that had a tape that came with it because production delays and they needed something physical to sell, so we made tapes. Released some tapes for Vices. I'm not opposed to cassettes. It's just, as me personally, I just choose to listen to vinyl or Spotify. I don't really fuck with cassettes.
Right. Wait, so
in that sense, anyway.
You're an 08 grad, right? Okay, so let's see.
Yeah.
I was 02, so I went through a tape phase. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had tapes too growing up, and in fact, one of the first tapes that I ever owned was the NSYNC Christmas cassette. So
nice.
I got down back in the day.
All right.
But so I was young enough to be around tapes and know them and listen to them, but then you have to rewind them, and there's so many technical advances that benefited music that I was just like, oh my god, get me out of this caveman age of cassettes. And can't wait to download this off LimeWire. How cool.
Yeah.
And then it crashes your computer. So I guess, I don't know. I guess at the end of all things, cassettes are infallible. They're like cockroaches. They're the cockroach of the format world. We're like, oh shit, vinyl's too expensive. There's too many delays because now Capitol Records wants to produce 50,000. I don't know, the soundtrack to Blade Runner 2, which is phenomenal. And there's streaming services and blah blah blah. The only thing that hasn't like completely gone away and hasn't been priced out of musicians and labels' reach has been the cassette. So yeah, they're the cockroach of the format world.
The format world, right on.
Hot take.
Crucify! Don't touch the filthy hands of those that bear the crucifix. Don't touch the filthy hands of those that bear the crucifix. Let them know that we praise the wicked still. Let them know that we fuck the wicked still.
You think with the popularity of vinyl that there would cease to be any delays now, but it's still backed up? Is the problem because there's not enough pressing plants?
The problem is that the machinery that presses the vinyl is rare to come by, and when you do come by it, if you need to fix it up to get the parts, it's extremely expensive to run and operate. And that may have changed in the last year. Like, I haven't really been contacting pressing plants since like back in 2016.
Yeah.
Which I know that doesn't seem that long ago, but it feels like ages ago to me. But so there may be advances and everything, but there's still like plants popping up, but they're kind of more in that boutique-y, setting because they don't have the revenue to be like a powerhouse like Pirate Press.
Yeah.
Or Got a Groove. It takes time because it's so expensive to run those machines, and there was a moment in time where, you know, I was like, there's a huge need, like, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. And, you know, there's obviously a dire need for more plants because everything that's reliable, Rainbow, Pirates Press, Cotta Group, gets backed up, you know, and like obviously from a business standpoint, if I've got Virgin Records ready to sign over a $300,000 like pressing job versus the label that only, you know, an independent label that only is pressing 500 records and it's a $3,000 job, like priorities, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like the popularity of it was its downfall because bigger labels were like, oh, people will pay for this. And then they got involved and just all this stuff. So I wanted to open my own pressing plant. I talked to a couple manufacturers. I got some pricing, got some, not got permits, but talked to like the city council of where I live, which has like a great place that you could do a plant at.
Wow.
So there was like things in the works, but it just never came to fruition because it's just so damn expensive.
Wow.
So I the shortage of machines and the shortage of new parts for those machines, that's really what's causing, you know, the delay.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough, well, like you said, not enough pressing plants and not enough of those pressing machines to go around.
In your experience, what was the like average turnaround time for you to get your records back to you? Like once you sent, I guess, the master to the plant.
In a perfect world, well, it used to be like Dance for Destruction. I had that, you know, that vinyl so quick. It used to be like 2 to 3 months. You know, like you submit everything, you would approve the art proofs from wherever you were getting it done, whether that was the same plant or another company that you used for the jackets and inserts, things like that. And then like within, you know, 4 or 5 weeks, you would get your test press, or not even, like 3 to 4 weeks, you would get your test press copies to approve or not approve. And, you know, so the whole process took like at most 3 months.
Wow.
And then in the later years of the label, it started becoming like 6 months. Yeah, that became the majority, was about 6 months. And, you know, I was talking to Rich one time, Rich Rossi, who works at Death Wish, and like he was one of my primary contacts for distribution purposes. And, you know, I had something up for pre-order, but I was like, listen, we got to stretch this out because this just happened and it got pushed back. And, you know, he was like, I always plan, you know, we always set release dates at least 2 months ahead of what the plant tells us so that they have a buffer. So, you know, 6 months. So when you're planning for 8 months on your album cycle, it used to be 3 months, then it easily doubled to 6 months.
Wow.
And like, yeah. And what's comforting, like Misery Loves Company, is like I wasn't the only one that experienced massive delays.
Yeah.
In 2016, that just felt like, you know, every project that I had some sort of delay along the lines, and it was just like too much, you know.
Yeah.
But
that's
I still support it. Like I would still, you know, if I revamp Melotov and I wanted to do the production, I would still do it, you know. But we would just be smarter about the marketing and the web store side of things, because that's kind of what caused a lot of problems towards the end, you know. But it's all good. You learn as you go, and that's how I've always ran the label, was like jumping into it and like, oh, you know, this will just be a lesson for us then. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Wow. That's awesome. Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I hear horror stories. Yeah, like the label would have to post, oh, there's a delay, we gotta push this back. Like, no worries, that seems normal now.
Yeah, like that's exactly that's the status quo now. Is you know, pre-order a record, and except for like the bigger labels they're on it, they've got that shit down. You know, like Death Wish or Relapse or Profound. What is it? Profound.
The label?
Lore.
Profound Lore.
Yeah, Profound Lure. And Southern Lord, like they always, you know, I've never really had issues with them.
Oh, okay.
like, and pre-ordering stuff and not getting it on time, or, you know, they'll have it like start shipping and then you get it on the release date. Like, I always strive for that. The only time that the vinyl came in before the release date and I was surprised, I was like, that was quick, was the Seizures record.
Oh,
it was actually Velvet and Stone, Tidemouth, Velvet and Stone, and then Seizures, the Sanity Universal. Like, both of those records came ahead of time, and I was super surprised. So, you know, it was always hit or miss.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That was a double record too, right?
Yeah, which is why I was like, holy cow, that was quick.
That's why the best way to go is tapes now. No, just kidding.
Well, yeah.
You gotta do tapes.
Yeah, so anyway, tapes. Just a whole hour tangent on tapes. Oh, man. I could do it too. I'm a jaded old woman. I can complain about anything. You give me a soapbox and I will stand on it and complain.
Right on. How do you go about with marketing a record? That seems like, I never think like when a label they'll just make an announcement, but like how do you get the rest of the country to see this record, and if the world too?
I'm so glad you asked me this question, because there's a person that has helped me with this, that he's just the nicest, greatest guy. I credit him a lot with, you know, I feel like I hit a really good growth spurt and had great momentum between like 2013, you know, through like mid 2006, like to April 2016 until like, you know, my personal stuff got in the way. So I was hoping you would ask me about this, because I always love to push him and, you know, anyone else that's listening to this particular episode, if they have a band or if they're thinking of starting a label, like they need to go to this guy. But for marketing, I hit up my friend Curran Reynolds, Curran, Curran Reynolds. He lives on the East Coast, but I came into contact with him because I did a split label release with Justin of Vitriol Records.
Oh, the Ghost Slim.
And we both, Ghost Slim. Right. And so Justin knew Curran, and Curran did all the marketing. He did the PR for that record, and that's how I got into him. But he's a one-man show. He has a band called Body Stuff that he drums in. But you know, he makes his bread and butter doing PR and marketing. And so we would just work together on particular releases. You know, he has a reasonable fee that was easy to recoup without like crazy marking up the price. He's just like the guy to go to. You know, he's the one that did all the footwork and got records reviewed in magazines, online. He's the one that like would orchestrate streams and all that stuff. Like, you know, from just my contact list without Curran, there's a few people that I know that I could send records to and have them review it and everything, which is great, because, you know, like there's some bands that I would want to push 100% fully with a full like album cycle of marketing, because it was an LP, it was a debut, they had a big tour, like any number of reasons. And then there were other bands where it's like, if it's a 7-inch and I'm already spending money on that, like I'll just use my contacts and not have Curran charge me, because it was a per release basis sort of thing. You know, and so I would lean on my contacts for that. But Curran is the guy to do it. He's just, you know, nice. He knows how to market. He'll like, essentially what the process is like, I'd send him the record, I'd send him band photos, like they had to be in color band photos, not live photos. So like you had to have promotional photos, and send him all those assets. And he would listen to the record. He would write like the perfect summary. He had a huge scope of reference for like what certain bands sound like. Like, you know, he's into really aggressive stuff too, which helped, because he knows how to like market it. You know, he knows like how to compare it and everything. But what surprised me is he ended up loving the Tidemouth Velvet and Stone LP, nice. Which was really flattering and sweet. And I didn't expect it, because, you know, as you said, it's really different from, you know, an opposite from what they sounded like on like the 7-inch or whatever.
Yeah.
But but he's the man. So if any of your listeners in bands or labels, and you know, when I send you the songs for the playlist, I'll send you his like website and stuff, because, you know,
sure,
he's the man. Like if it weren't for Curran, you know, because it's like you could be holding, you can have the greatest record in hand, already done, vinyl plants, it ships to your home, you've got it in hand, and it's the greatest record. Like, but if no one knows about it, then you're just sitting on your garage is full of a bunch of unsold records. So, like, I credit him with my growth and like notoriety because he got my name out there. He got those bands out there. Globe and Beast was the first record that Curran took on, and we just built a relationship and kind of grew from there. But yeah, that's how you do it. You hit up Curran.
Right on.
Logistically, he's like, the lead time is at least 2 to 4 months before the release date. He's shopping it out to publications and everything. So that's how you hear streams or get, Pitchfork reviews is because you have that 2 to 4 month lead time, and you want to hit the ground running when you have the records actually hit stores in the release day. You don't want to have the records hit stores and then start the PR because you're just, sitting on, again, unsold inventory. So nice. He was monumental in Melotov's growth, so.
That's good.
Hopefully that answers your question. If not, like,
yeah.
I have to go on another tangent.
Yeah, love these answers. Out to like colleges and universities, like college radio, with like your roster, telling them like with like press kits or anything?
That's no, I haven't actually.
Because when I was going to school, I did some college radio at it's a small town though. It was the school's Eastern Oregon University, small town LeGrand, which is like 4 hours east of Portland. And like 3.5 hours west of Boise, so it's like right in the middle, small town.
Yeah, like,
and I think like the county is only like maybe 10,000 people, maybe less.
Gotcha.
But there's I did some DJing at the school radio station, and there would be boxes of like press kits, demos, like you said, the promotional photos, and of just like, and it's like the indie of the independent, like you've never heard of these people, but yet they're sending stuff out. And I remember picking up Between the Buried and Me, their first album, and it was through Life Force. So this was before they signed with Victory, and we get a bunch of those.
Was it the Alaska album?
No, their first album, they're self-titled.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so this was like their first release. Yeah, and this was before Victory. They signed with Victory, so it was still with Life Force. And it's one of those, and Life Force was like a big label that would send us a lot of their stuff. That and like Nuclear Blast. So I'm like, all right, these like the symphonic black death metal, all this kind of weird stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, I'll give them a chance. Dug it. And then they like just blew up with their next few releases. Like when Alaska came out, wow. Hey, we have their first record in there at the radio station.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's so sick. I love stories like that. And you know, it wasn't like I had a bias against college radio or anything.
Yeah.
I didn't go to college, so you know, it's not like I was out of touch with it, but it just never crossed my mind. So maybe I was out of touch with it.
Well, no, yeah, it does help out. Yeah, they're listening. They're listening.
which is great. And like I said, you know, it's no bias. It's not like, you know, oh, it's just 10,000 people. Like, why even bother mark? It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
I guess I just never had it cross my mind, and if I did, I wouldn't know like what channel to go through, other than like asking Curran, like, hey, should I, you know, how do we get on college radio? Like, what can we do? But that's great. Do you think, like, do you still listen to college radio stations because of how indie it is?
There's a few shows that I listen to on and off. Like they have certain time slots, and usually the cool ones are like 3 a.m. though. So it's like if I'm up, I'll tune in on a Tuesday.
Gotcha.
But at the university here, University of Hawaii, they have this I don't know if they still do it, but it's called Monday Night Live, where they actually have a band play from like I think 9 to 10, and they perform live on Monday nights. And so
that's tight.
Yeah,
I back that.
That's really cool. Yeah, they do that, and there are a couple of radio shows who are like some are like hardcore shows, which is really cool. They're keeping it up to date with the current stuff, which is what I like. It's like, all right, there's totally
that's
a market,
tight.
for that. So yeah, you should consider that. Reaching out to the
and,
kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, you know, I've done a few interviews for a few websites in the past before, and like one other podcast, and that's one of the questions that like everyone wants to ask is like, how do I listen to music or find new music? But you know, I can't believe I've never considered or thought of like college radio, because like from a concept standpoint, it's brilliant. I love it, and I would 100%, you know, be on board with that. The fact that like we're giving all these newer bands a chance to be heard on a station or in a way that reaches 10,000 people. Because 10,000 people as a town, yeah, that could be small, but as a band starting out, if 10,000 people hear your song, that's huge. So it's like, you know, it's college radio seems like a great way to discover music and discover bands, and you know, whether or not they're established and it's the listener's first time hearing them, or if they're just like hot off the press and brand new, you know. So that's if you can hook me up with some people to send some stuff to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you know anyone, suggestions, like I'm happy, because that's a great move to make.
One of my buddies went to UC Irvine, and I think that college radio station is kind of big, like in terms of like with independent music, and their policy was you can only play independent music at the station, so nothing mainstream.
That's tight. This is great. You know, you learn something new every day, but this is badass. Like, but go on. Sorry, but that's bad. Go on.
Yeah. UC Irvine. There's Portland State, I believe. Like Portland is just a really great scene with like their music community there. Like, it's huge. So I'm sure you can hit up any college radio station there in Oregon for sure. And there is with the bigger like colleges. That's all I know. Just the Portland and UC Irvine. You probably maybe stuff in Washington too. Yeah, Vancouver, Washington. Well, that's just 15 minutes out of Portland, so maybe someplace in Seattle.
The UC Irvine, and there was a venue called Blood Orange Info Shop. It was kind of like an anarchist bookstore, but it was in a basement setting, which it was really tight. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And that was either in Riverside, because Riverside and Irvine are close to each other. But and I think it was UC Irvine, like right by the campus was this venue, and it had a great turnout every time.
Oh,
so you know that makes sense to me, and that's cool. But I didn't know that UC Irvine was like one of the big heavy hitters with college radio. So
yeah,
but that's great. That's awesome.
I don't know if because I remember before they would post stuff online with like their live performances there too. I don't know if they still do that, but I'm guessing every year there's always a different program director, so policy might have changed.
Yeah,
But yeah. Um, let's see. I gotta ask. Have you or is the Chain Reaction still a venue?
it is.
It is. Do
Yeah,
you,
in Anaheim, Chain Reaction.
do you go there regularly? Like, or is that near where
Um,
you're at?
where I am is like, the boondocks of Los Angeles. So
Oh.
like it's Santa Clarita is Los Angeles County, but I don't even consider it LA. When I
Yeah.
think of LA, I think of like the city and like,
Oh, okay.
so like from LA, uh, the Chain Reaction would still be quite a drive. It's in Anaheim, which is by Disneyland.
Okay.
So from Los Angeles, it would be about an hour drive, maybe 45 minutes.
Oh wow.
So closer to an hour. From where I live, that would easily be an hour and a half, hour 45.
Ah.
So I would only go to Chain Reaction if the particular band that I was going to see didn't have like an LA date that was like the closest to me,
Yeah.
or the closest to Los Angeles. I mean, because it's usually when tour packages come through, you hit San Diego and then you hit LA and then you hit Northern California. So if in between San Diego and Northern California, the Chain Reaction was the only venue that I could see this particular band at, then yeah, I would go. It's weird because like Los Angeles is full of cool venues. I'm sitting outside of the rehearsal space that I was at with my friend Sarah before I called you. So it's in Echo Park. So there's a lot of places that bands could play, but it's like an oversaturation where it's like, okay, like we could play here, but how big is that going to draw and yada yada.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why there's maybe not so much LA activity unless it's like a bigger band and it's the Palladium or the Forum or even
Okay.
Troubadour, like sort of thing. But yeah, like I'll still go to Anaheim. I just prefer not to.
Oh, okay.
It's funny. Why do you ask though?
Oh no, yeah, because then that's the venue I've always heard about. Like I've been there once when I went to visit my friend in Irvine, and because I've always seen it on like DVDs for like live band performances. I'm like, wow, this must be the place to go. And I like asking people if from California if they've been there or not. So I'm so ignorant about like just I guess the different cities of California because it's so big. I would ask my friend like, oh, where's Sacramento? And he's like, it's all the way down that way. Why do you want to go there? I'm like, oh, it's because I've heard of it on TV. Like
it's like
or San Diego. It's like, all right.
LA to me is like the greatest city. There's so much to do, and you always run into someone new and someone that you know. So it's like I just like California fangirl, like Los Angeles, fan club #1. But the downside is like it's so spread out. Whereas there's people on the East Coast that like live in Philly and they can go to a show in New York or they can go to a show in I'm sure a lot of geography. So, but for the sake of argument, like a 2-hour ride to New York or like a half-hour train ride to I don't know, Connecticut or whatever. It's like on the East Coast, those states are like it's easier to get to. So like in terms of transportation, where am I going with this? But like LA, it's like Santa Ana is all the way down south. Might as well be in San Diego at that point, and then Sacramento is all the way up north, and Los Angeles is like we're not even smack dab. We're that would be the Central Coast, like Fresno and Bakersfield, or not Central and Modesto, whatever. I'm rambling now, but pretty much like. You hear about the Chain Reaction, and I think from my point of view because it's a cool venue. The stage is high, so like it's high but it's small, so it's a very intimate setting, and it's great for stage
feels
diving.
Like that, Let's see. I gotta ask, like when you attend shows, are they usually at like actual venues or are they like house shows?
It's sporadic. So, like, for example, last night went to the show, saw Mammoth Grinder, and that was at a bar called Resident. Okay. And it sold out. It was jam packed. So I like those intimate settings. One of my favorite shows, like one of the best time I've had at a show out here, it was Antoine. Are you familiar with Antoine?
And no.
He's a rap artist. He's originally from the Bay, but based out of Los Angeles. Like big on the hip hop side of things. And so it was Antoine, who I like, and this band. Well, Nothing. You know the band Nothing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So and Antoine is friends with those guys, so they put together an impromptu show, and it was one of those ones where it's like, the address is not on the flyer, so like ask the punk, quote unquote. And it was crazy because like it came together through my friend Andy Rice. At least I think he was the one that helped like put it together, or find the space. And it was in a 2-story, I don't even know what you would call it, warehouse in LA, right off Skid Row, where it's all the homeless people, and it smells like piss constantly. And unmarked, it looked like an abandoned warehouse type of deal. And the show was taking place upstairs because someone lived in the bottom half, Andy's friend who allowed them to use the venue for this impromptu Nothing and Antoine show. So obviously, because it's not a regulated venue, there wasn't a capacity limit. So it was just jam packed, and people were smoking indoors, and it was just crazy.
Oh wow!
And Antoine's playing, and people are going nuts.
Yeah.
To the point where the floor is bouncing, and I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be how I die. The floor is gonna cave in because it's overpacked, and I'm gonna fucking die in this warehouse off Skid Row, and my parents will have to come identify my body, and it smells like piss. This is the worst situation. But it ended up being fine, and everything. But it was in hindsight, it was sketchy, but it was fun. Trinidad James, who's another rapper, he's a big hip hop artist. Somehow knows Nikki from Nothing, and he came and did a set at that show too. It was just wild. It was every man for himself, pretty much. That's how it felt. Yeah. And which was cool. I'm totally into that. So, but I was just scared for my life for a little bit. So there's that, and then there's stuff that's I the Echo and Echoplex, or the Regent Theater, or 7th Street Warehouse in LA. So it runs the gamut. There's a house show last night that I was thinking about going to, and I love house shows, and
I have to ask, how's the security there? With those shows, are they very strict with people being on stage diving, fights breaking out? Do people get kicked out of shows for just being too rowdy?
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times. It depends on the venue.
Oh, okay.
So house shows and things what I like about house shows, or the impromptu one that friends set up, is because it's your friend setting it up, or it's at a house, people tend to automatically be more respectful. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
There's people get crazy because usually at those types of places, it's a alcohol and drug free for all.
Well, so, I think of house party, don't touch his mom's shit. Be respectful.
Right. Exactly. I feel people, their intention when they arrive is respect, and then you get loaded and you get kind of rowdy. But even when that happens, we're self-policing. It's a very self-policing community.
Oh, okay.
So it's if someone's getting too rowdy, like last night, there's this guy, he was super into Mammoth Grinder. He was jumping around, but he was, he couldn't make his way up to the stage and mosh or area. So he was in the back, just jumping, not crowd killing, but just jumping around and drunk, but he was bumping into people by the bar and spilling drinks and everything. And,
okay.
One of those guys, he's just too into it. And instead of having it be a thing where, the bar security, shuts it down because they're nervous that people, people, right there in the crowd just kind of hey, man, you need to tone it down, and handled it without it becoming a giant thing. And I would prefer that like 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
You know, or 100%. Like if we could all just self-police and do that, like,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
So I've never really been to a venue where security, or I've never really been in a situation where security was, you know, out of hand, except for once. I don't want to name the venue or anything, but like a person, like security was kind of being a dick because they misunderstood what was going on.
Yeah.
And they got in one of my friend's faces, and because, you know, in hardcore we're also like tightly knit and everyone's got everyone's back, like another friend like got in security space on behalf of his friend, and a fight broke out and people got thrown down the stairs, and
Oh wow.
you know, like it just you know, it was very quick because you can't really get back up to fight back once you've been tossed down a flight of stairs. But that was something that was instigated by security as far as I understand it. And it's like, you know, it's like, I know people that are from the community that have worked security, and they're great because they know what it's like to be on the opposite side as a spectator. But then I've also seen security who like kind of power trip, you know,
For
like,
sure.
yeah, they just kind of are dicks for the sake of being dicks. So it's like, but that goes for anyone really. But yeah, it depends on the venue. It depends on the situation. I've seen it self-policing work out fine and security work out fine. And I've seen it where security starts, you know, shit by, you know, throwing their weight around or whatever the case is. And then it ends up poorly. So it just comes with the territory, you know?
Yeah. I brought that up because sometimes it can be miscommunication between just the security and the crowd. It's like, okay, like his intent wasn't to hurt people. He's just having fun. Security saw it another way, and then they ended up getting kicked out and stuff. But and then I've been to places where self-policing does work. You know, it's like all right,
right.
So it's like okay,
yeah, because like if you think about it, everyone that's attending the show wants to be there, wants to have a good time, and even if it's security and it's like, you know, this a job that I work, like, you know, I'm sure you don't want to go into work and be like, oh, I can't wait to fucking throw people out and fight people today. You know, like obviously everyone has bad days, and obviously situations don't get handled perfectly every single time. But, you know, the mindset going into it is like everyone wants to be here and enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, you know, the unifying, like that's, what am I trying to say? Like the unifying, the peaceful factor. It's like, hey man, like, you know, you don't have to get all heavy-handed with me being a security guard, but I won't be, you know, a drunk asshole. I'll handle my liquor and, you know, handle my drugs like an adult, if that's your thing, you know, and then like just be a good person. Like it's so easy to be a decent human being, and like people fuck that up all the time, but you know,
be a decent
can't
person.
We all get along, man?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, right on. Well, I think that's a good way to end the talk. Be mindful of each other.
Well, yeah, you know, just know that like Joe Schmo down the street, I don't know, like there's tensions are so high right now in the country, and you know, it's like everyone's getting called out, either rightfully so or wrongfully so, but everyone's on high alert for being a racist or a predator or this or that. It feels like we're inundated with bad news and bad people, but that's not really the case. And, you know, even though Melotov is still on hiatus and I kind of want to rework it, but, you know, it's not something that I have like a set date on. Like,
Yeah.
I still like being involved in music for that reason. It's because you meet so many different people from so many different walks of life, but you meet them because you both came here to see this one band, and so it's like, and that sounds so cliche, and it sounds so like, 1970s Coke commercial, everyone hold hands, world peace, blah blah blah. Like, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it and live in a dream world. Like, obviously, you gotta deal with shitty people in the way that shitty people need to be dealt with. But having preconceived notions about a certain person before you get a chance to have a dialogue with them, like, that's something that can help,
for sure,
bust out, help stop unnecessary violence or unnecessary fights or whatever the case is. So.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, Melanie, thank you for your time. This was a really awesome talk, and getting to finally talk to you and meet you over the phone.
This has been super cool, and like I said, I'm super flattered that you reached out to me, even though the label has been inactive for the past year. Like, I still appreciate that you have an interest in it. Because I think about the bands that I work with, and almost every single, not almost, but every single band that I've worked with, had the pleasure of working with, like, you find friends in them, and it's not just like business associates doing business together. It's like friends that got together and wanted to put out cool music, for each other and with each other.
Yeah.
So I'm super flattered that you gave me this opportunity, because then it gets to shine a spotlight back on them, the bands on my roster who, like, I would still like to keep pushing and promoting even if I'm inactive. You know what I mean? So thank you.
All these bands they still hold up. They're still awesome to listen to. Like, every one of the releases, for sure.
You're the best, man. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
Hey, is there anything you'd like to maybe plug or mention specifically before we end this?
Woo, great question. I just want to, shout out the good people that help make Melotov what it is, and what it was, and give those people your time and attention and business, and and if I forget anyone, I'm sorry. Like, I hardly remembered I had a play date today with an old friend, so if I leave you out, I'm sorry. But so Curran Reynolds, any label or any band that needs to push themselves, and you need to have some type of publicity, because technology makes it so easy for us to just flood SoundCloud or Bandcamp, or people use CD Baby or whatever. So there's so much out there that gets it's overwhelming for the consumer. So get Curran on your side, and he'll make sure that your band is heard the right way and represented the right way, and he'll get your name out there. New Noise Magazine, Lisa is amazing. She's head editor. She's always believed and supported me personally, and the label. Let's see, Death Wish, they've been around forever for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, like they always seem to have their finger on the pulse at the right time, and they work with great bands as a label, and then as a distribution arm, they're just on top of it. They work really hard. Rich, Caleb, Mark, Chris, like all the dudes that I would have a, quote unquote work with. Obviously they're in the East Coast and I'm in California, but they're great. So, if again, labels, bands looking to get out there, talk to Rich or talk to Caleb or someone at Death Wish about distribution. Cause they'll take on, like, before I had something with them, they'll take on like individual records, and they just distributed the Deadhead 10-inch that we had put out at like 2010. Because they were working with Touche and Moray at the time, and so Clayton helped organize or orchestrate that, which was awesome. But yeah, Death Wish, New Noise, Curran, these are all people that you need to be in contact with if you're in a band and a label and want to continue to be in a band and a label. Like, they're just people who have the best intentions, and they're not too big for their britches. You know what I mean? They don't forget where they came from. They're not, they're businesses. So if something, they have to be able to turn a profit and make money in order, obviously, or else why would they do it? They're a business, not a charity. So, keep that in mind. But they always are open-minded, all three of those people, Lisa, Curran, and Deathwish as a collective one person.
Yeah. Nice.
And then also, I heard this band Command last night, and like I said, it just blew me away. It made me feel like
Command with a K, right?
Command with a K, Kommand. And they don't have a Bandcamp, but they have a website, and that has music you can listen to, and it's command.band, BAND, and no .com or anything. It's .band.
Wow.
You can do that now with your URLs, which is tight. But
cool.
Yeah, if you go there, they have their 3-song demo up. It's death metal, but they fucking ruled, and they blew my mind. And they were the first time that I bought a tape. That
right.
Like that I willingly. It wasn't like, oh, it's my friend's band. Like I got it. It was like, no, I need to own something. So definitely give them a listen if you're into death metal and all that good stuff. Saw them last night. They were great.
Sure. I'm gonna check them out now.
They were just so heavy. They had a great presence. They were super tight. Like as a first show, like, and a show with Mammoth Grinder, who I'm sure like you would have butterflies and be nervous about because you play in the same vein. Like obviously you're gonna like Mammoth Grinder. So to open for them on your first show that's sold out, it's jam packed. Like that's gotta be nerve wracking.
Wow.
But they played like they've been playing for years, so they were really, really sick. And I hope they blow up. So and also Chase from Gate Creeper, super awesome. He does great design work. Cool. I think he plays guitar in Spirit Adrift, which is like it's a metal band, but it's not like it's kind of like Paul Bearer, or at least it reminds me of Paul Bearer. He's awesome. He's always been a cool dude, and he was always. Oh yeah, Chase, and then Austin from Outer Heaven.
Oh, okay.
Has wanted to. I don't know if he's still recording bands, but I think he was going to school for it. But we had a long delay with the mastering of the tracks from the guy mastering them. So he just went ahead and did it himself because of his studio knowledge.
Yeah. And
he was awesome. So, between Chase and design work, and then Austin, who's on the East Coast for recording, bands or musicians or labels that are listening to this podcast, you're all set. Hit up those guys. You're welcome.
Nice.
They're the dudes. So
yeah. Okay. And people can still pick up your records, right, through Deathwish?
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't even think about. I'm a terrible businesswoman. I would much rather just celebrate. What the hell? I didn't even plug myself. I'm just I just want to hang out with friends. Yes, my records are still available. They're through Deathwish. You'll just, at the search bar, just search Melotov or search the band or the record you're looking for. It'll come right up. They are my primary online distribution, but if you go to your local record store as well, or anywhere you want to pick up Melotov right then and there, but you don't see it in store, you can always tell your store, hey, can you start carrying this title? I really like it, or band, I really like it. But who does that? Have you ever done that with a record store?
Not with a record store, but with a comic store. I'm like, can you start picking up these titles?
Well, good. No, that's what you should do. I feel too sheepish, and I'm like, I don't want to tell them how to do their job. But no, that actually helps, and it helps the record store because it guarantees the sale that, hey, if I carry this, that person's going to buy it. So anyway, long story short, Deathwish, store.deathwishinc.com, and you just search bar Melotov, or you can pick from the drop-down menu, and you can pick up all the physical releases there if it's not already at your local store. Yeah.
For sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And then everything, still working on getting some of those older releases up online, like the entire Melotov catalog. You can stream it on whatever platform you want.
Nice.
Yeah. And the physical copies, there you go. So
sure.
I may be chilling for right now, but you ain't seen the last of me yet, baby. I'm still around.
Right on. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Melanie. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I'm super flattered, and it was a great chat. So thank you.
For sure. have a good rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend.
You too, and thanks again for being flexible with the time today. I appreciate that a lot.
Oh yeah, no problem. Good luck on the band stuff. I hope that turns out well.
Thank you. Hey, I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah. Right on.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Melanie. Have a good day.
Talk to you soon. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Alright, that track you just heard is called It Looked Like a Fire by Seizures off of the double LP The Sanity Universal. Check out their tunes as well as the other bands you heard on today's episode at melotovrecords.bandcamp.com. That's MELOTOV records.bandcamp.com. That is it for this show. Hope you enjoyed the interview and tunes as much as I did. Once again, thank you to Melanie for your time and for being on the show. It was awesome. Be sure to check out Melotov Records on Facebook, Twitter, and the like. Bandcamp, iTunes, Spotify, and vinyl through Death Wish Inc. I'll have links posted on this podcast website at takingtheleadmedia.com. You can also check out and stream past episodes and read up on my seldom ramblings. This is an Apple podcast, so be sure to check it out on iTunes, Do me a solid, please rate and review this podcast. 1 star, 5 stars, you decide. Any feedback will help towards improving the show and help the podcast climb the charts. I'd be very grateful for that. And feel free to recommend the show to a friend. They may find their new favorite band on a future episode. And be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. This podcast is also streaming on YouTube. Search Taking the Lead Media, and it is also on Tumblr at oneshotsideshow.tumblr.com. Hit me up on Twitter at TTLM Podcast. I do love the interaction. Send love, hate, questions, comments, music submissions, recommendations through there or my email, along with any general correspondence, to takingtheleadmedia@gmail.com. Alright, more heavy tunes next week, so please check back again. I'll be here, promise. Until then, my name is Onofre, and I'll be signing off until the next Taking the Lead Media podcast. Thanks for listening.
Constant pressure raises all my answer calls. So much I can't control it. You praise His grace and taking me your broken love. So much I can't control it. I try and to make this my home. I try again. I tried it to make this my home.